Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Apple's WWDC dropped a ton of news on us, and we're here to break it all down. The scene stealer had to be the HomePod, a smart speaker in Apple's first new product category since the Apple Watch 2 years ago. Ben, you're a resident smart speaker expert.
Am I?
I hope so. I'm not. So what were your initial impressions?
Underwhelming.
Really?
It was, I mean, the name really threw
HomePod?
me off guard. We were trying to guess names yesterday, and HomePod was absolutely not
Honestly,
one
I
of
thought
them.
Siri speaker was the best sounding one.
I understand why they would want to call it that. I also think it's kind of funny that everybody has been using Home. You know, Essential, the Andy Rubin, no relation company, also came out with the Essential Home, where they're going to introduce that. There's the Google Home, and now the HomePod.
Look, the idea is this is the hub for your home.
Right, I know
So,
that. It's just
it's a little on the nose.
A little more creativity from Apple might have been useful. Also, I hate to say this because I think it's used a lot in tech circles, but what is the killer app for this product, especially because it's $350?
Clearly, the price is the killer app.
The price is what's going to kill you. I mean,
$349. That is twice as much as an Echo, as the most expensive Echo. And when you think about it, really, like it's $50 for the cheapest Echo. So really, you can get what? Seven of those?
You can get 7 Echo Dots for the same price. And arguably, the killer app is supposed to be music.
Yes.
You know, it's supposed to have woofers and tweeters.
There was a 7-tweeter beam array setup that even Phil Schiller had trouble explaining.
Yeah.
He basically just said, you don't have to understand any of this, only that it sounds amazing. And I'm like, well, I kind of should explain. I should understand some of it, right?
Hand us your money. Just do it. And that being said, Apple fanboys and people that love Apple are going to buy this regardless.
Look, it's Apple. You cannot dismiss anything Apple comes out with. This could be a start of something big. They always come out with something that seems overly crazy expensive, and somehow like the iPhone was when it first came out. So we'll see how well it does over the long term. Next up, I want to talk about the iPad Pro. Apple introduced a 10.5-inch version. This is sort of like the Goldilocks version, right?
Sure.
One's too big, one's too small. This is theoretically
really
just
going to talk
right.
about an iPad?
Yeah, we are.
I mean, what's so interesting about this, other than the fact that it's the medium-sized version?
That's basically it.
Really? It doesn't do anything else?
It does the same thing as the iPad Pro. It's faster. Disappointingly, the display is actually the same resolution as the previous one. So
okay.
Not a huge amount of upgrades.
I would like to give Apple, because we haven't, this is somewhat critical at this point, so let's give them some credit for the iMac Pro, which granted is a serious amount of money at $5,000, but boy did they pack in a ton of crazy specs into this thing, and it's definitely a way to get their loyal fan base of pros, designers, much more excited.
They haven't done a good job of sort of catering to. The last few years have been pretty rough for professionals looking to use Apple machines because they just haven't really, they've really pushed more for mainstream customers. So, all right, lastly, Apple unveiled ARKit, a set of tools for developers to start building augmented reality experiences for the iPhone and the iPad. Scott had his impressions. He said it actually looks surprisingly good.
Scott Stein, our resident mobile reviewer.
He's everywhere.
I think, we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing with it. It makes a lot of sense that they would push it out at WWDC, get developers excited.
And their argument,
see what happens.
Their argument was once this thing turns on, they'll have the largest platform in the world for AR because of the huge base of iPhones and iPads that are out there.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, Microsoft uses that argument with Windows 10 devices too. So we'll see how much it holds water. All right. For more on that, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Thanks for listening.
All right, so par for any more errors on my part. I think we're okay for the rest of the day.
It's all good.
All right.
Mr. Steve Austin in the chat. Great name, by the way.
What's up, Steve Austin?
Am I the only one that thinks that the HomePod is extremely overpriced? Less functionalities for a higher price point only at Apple.
No,
I
don't
agree.
You're not alone in that.
Personally, I agree.
Pretty much the universal consensus is it's pretty freaking overpriced.
I don't think that I would pay for this thing personally. Like if we were to get a review sample, sure, I would try it out.
So look, I think you can see by the way Apple is spinning this, right? They're not trying to really push this as a smart speaker first. They really spent a lot of time talking about the music aspect, the sound aspect. I think they're trying to pit themselves against like Sonos or these kind of mid-range to high-end speakers. They argue that relative to those speakers, they're actually a pretty good deal.
Let me ask you this then. why not call it something related to Beats? Or why didn't they mention Beats at all?
I would say my argument there is that they're trying to eventually phase out the Beats brand.
So why did they spend $1 billion on that company?
I have no idea. They have
We
a lot.
don't know.
They have a lot of money.
Okay.
No, I mean, look, they bought it for the subscription service that they sort of had the
Right. And the brain
process.
trust.
Right, the brain trust, Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine. So, it's $1 billion for
It's just
Apple.
like-
That's a drop in the bucket.
It's just, I was thinking like when you, for a long time, when you thought of like premium tier headphones or like more expensive headphones,
Beats,
you thought
Beats, definitely.
Beats.
Yep.
So to me, that seemed to make sense.
I agree.
do
That
something like
absolutely
that.
makes sense. I think with HomePod, which I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. I mean, they're trying to obviously work off the AirPods and the iPod name. The iPod name was huge back in the day.
Podcast.
Yeah,
Sorry.
great. But the iPod brand was huge back in the day. I just feel like it's definitely lost a lot of its cachet, though. So,
What
the
iPod?
iPod name,
Yeah.
right? Like they were trying to link iPod to HomePod. You're like, all right, but how many people actually own an iPod anymore?
I wouldn't have been surprised if they named it something like the Apple Home or the Apple whatever. I don't know. I don't love the name, and I don't know who the customer base is going to be for this, other than
fanboys.
Apple loyalists.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Steve Austin that it does seem pretty expensive for something that an Echo or a Google Home could do for a far lower price.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's funny you guys should bring up Beats because Imagine Sagi says, funny that the company that brought Beats into their target market cares about high quality sound. Ooh.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Fair enough. That is,
Big ouch.
and what's up, Imagine Sagi?
And for the record, Imagine Sagi, I agree with you. Danny Green, our boy Danny Green,
What's
says,
up, Danny Green?
Yeah.
I kind of like the concept of the HomePod. The name is not good. I would have to hear it in my house before I would buy it. Also, it should be sold as a pair for that price. So more
Oh,
the
I
same
agree.
consensus.
Yeah.
It's the price issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the big question mark, right? Just listening to the sound quality. I mean, I don't think Danny, good luck trying to get the HomePod into your home to try out before you
For
buy it.
testing it.
But or I guess you could return it. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, if Apple spent that much time talking about the sound quality, you really have to experience what that's like. If it's really like Bose speakers that happen to be smart.
Yeah.
I think if they sold it like that, I could kind of wrap my mind around it a little bit better. If it's sort of like but I don't think it's as good.
There is a very easy workaround. If you want Bose speakers that are smart, you just plug
Connect
in.
them to your Echo.
Yeah, you connect an Echo
But
Dot
Bose
to
speakers
it. That's
are
what an Echo Dot was
Bose
for.
speakers are more expensive though.
Right.
So-
Yeah, but like if that's the target market, then you're going to spend even more money for like really, really high-end Bose speakers and then get, Alexa functionality
Yeah.
onto it. What
Well-
do you think of the look of this thing, by the way? We haven't talked about that yet.
I
I wasn't that crazy about
I don't know.
it.
I think it's fine. I don't think it justifies the price.
Mhm.
And for a company known for its design, I don't think it's like a beautiful work of art or anything.
No, that's kind of how I felt about
Yeah.
it too. When I first saw it, I was just like, really? That's what you guys have been working for years on?
Where's the aluminium?
I'm not trying to crap on it too much, but those were my immediate impressions were that the name was not great and it didn't look that cool.
My takeaway from it was, is this why you guys did the Trash Can Pro years ago? Were you just test driving that shape model?
The Mac Pro.
It
makes
did look a lot
more
like that.
Well, more than a lot.
Yeah,
it
it
makes
looks-
more
it
sense
is it.
in this configuration as a tiny little nugget speaker than it ever did as a desktop computer.
Yes.
That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
In related though, let's go in and Charles says it's pricey, but none of the other speakers will work with Apple Music. I'm pretty sure that's an interesting thought.
That is
if
a
you're
good
kind of
point.
married in out of
Yeah,
loyalty.
if you're in the Apple ecosystem, that's pretty. I mean, it's clear like this has additional benefits for you. But there are other music services.
Yeah,
You know?
that's the problem is that they made no mention of Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora.
Yeah.
So
They were
yeah,
like
do you think
Apple
you're
Music
really stuck if
subscription.
you're Apple, and if you're anything else, you're everything else?
I mean, I think that would be a huge mistake if they came out with this thing because I think it is early. Remember, this thing doesn't come out to December, so they probably are working on the partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine some of those partnerships will come. You will probably have Pandora and Spotify and all these other services because it just seems dumb if they just made it Apple Music. Like it's just
Right.
another
At
reason
that
to not
price.
buy. Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you're already in the Apple ecosystem, like Charles,
Right.
you're pretty good to go.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
if you
But
wanna
that's
spend that
that's a
kind of
limited
money.
market, right? Apple said yesterday that it has 27 million Apple Music subscribers. That's a big number, but there are far like 50 million Spotify subscribers. So it's there's a much bigger market out there that Apple would be losing out on if it just made an Apple Music only service. And like I'm a Prime customer, but I don't pay for Prime Music, and there's free music there for me for my Echo. Like that just seems like a much better deal for me. Like there's no way I would consider going to a HomePod if it meant like I had to commit to Apple Music.
Yeah, I agree.
Jacob Kraft says, how well do you think the premium audio argument will go given the Chromecast audio exists?
Right. Chromecast audio, similar
totally.
to the Echo Dot.
I mean, I think that's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough sell for Apple, given that there are just a universe of high-end speakers out there that are already in people's homes. Right?
Yeah. One of the things that we were talking about here, too, was for certain folks that already own a Google Home or an Echo, let's say you spend $180 on an Echo, you spend $130 on a Google Home. It's possible that you have multiple Echoes because you also got the $50 Echo Dot that you could throw somewhere else, like in your garage or a bedroom, whatever. What exactly justifies throwing those out or just, unplugging them or spending $350 on a completely different ecosystem?
I mean, I think you don't, right? Like at this point, like there's nothing that Apple has shown me that would convince me to like get rid of the existing hardware that I've invested in.
Right. Especially if you've got a home entertainment system building up, you got like a Sonos TV bar, as some in the chat have. Right. How well is that going to integrate with everything else? But Danny Green points out, what if the Apple TV talks to it? But are you really going to outfit your entire home with HomePods for the sake of a sound system? I don't think so.
Yeah,
that's a good
not
point about
self-sustaining
Apple TV.
Unless they start developing that software into a legitimate like 5.1 system, which I don't foresee happening anytime in the near future. And I don't think these things are going to suffice as a sound system.
Yeah.
They're a decent little speaker. I'm sure they are. But that's about as far as I'm going to give them.
I think
we'll see. Well, we don't really know, right? Because it's still in development. And so I would give it the benefit of the doubt. I would at least listen to it before making any kind of judgments on the audio quality.
Sure. Fair enough.
But I do like what you mentioned as far as Apple TV integration with like a MacBook or Apple TV or some of the other Apple products. Those are the types of things that you expect from Apple.
Yep.
And those might be, those types of really smooth integrations might be something that actually convinces people to start buying this stuff.
I mean, the idea of expanding it, Charles points out you could put this in your bedroom. The idea of expanding your pre-existing system would be kind of nice. But again, you have to be in the Apple ecosystem. You have to have an Apple TV going on, listening to Apple Music, subscribed, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to walk over to my bedroom or my bathroom, and I want that music to follow me there. That's where that comes into play.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to build a primary system out of that.
Yeah, do you buy multiple Apple's HomePods? Like, that sounds
so
ludicrous. Yeah. I mean, if you got too much money, I guess that's what you do.
So let's get some comments about people's favorite parts of the presentation. Imagine Sagi says AR was the best part of the presentation, but it was weird that they talked about IKEA and didn't connect it with their products virtually shown in your space. That's a good point.
Oh, that's a really good point. I mean, I think partly it might be because it's not quite ready yet. I don't know. It's like they showed a couple of like preset demos, and that was it. And I think they kind of stuck to the script there. But I agree. I think AR is definitely really exciting. As a whole, as a topic, it's very exciting. I think the fact that Apple kind of showed off what Apple showed off was actually pretty cool, considering it actually worked pretty well. And I think, from what I understand, it kind of works with any iPhone. Yeah. Not any iPhone, but I think it's a certain version, like 6S or higher or something.
I think in general, just kind of AR is still in that, oh, that's pretty neat phase.
Yeah.
There isn't much to it. There's not a whole lot of depth. There's not a whole lot of meat on those bones.
I think, frankly, Google's done the best job of explaining why AR matters with Google Lens.
Right.
Like the idea of shining it on a restaurant and getting open table information or Yelp information on it. That to me is like an instant, like, okay, I get that.
Right.
Everything else has been kind of like just sort of playing around, right?
Yeah, like putting like a pot of coffee on this table, which was part of the demo.
Yes.
It looked like it worked, but right. Like,
but also,
what's the relevance?
Beyond like looking at it and go, well, that's cool. Like, how has my life benefited from this virtual coffee cup?
Well, they also did like a video game on that table.
The Lego
too,
Batman
right?
thing, which actually was kind of cool.
It was cool, but it's kind of like I wouldn't end up playing that like out in public much.
No.
Because like, don't you have to like move around, and that kind of makes it a little bit harder to.
I mean, I think you could just rotate around. It's not like you're like jumping
You're
up
not
and down.
like you're not like running through the train trying to finish a mission or something. That would be pretty sweet and horrible.
Yahoo, our old buddy Yahoo.
Hey,
Yahoo!
The best thing that happened in WWDC was the iOS 11 and iPad Pro. Now I can replace my laptop for an iPad.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
I mean, he's not wrong, though. They put a lot under the hood this time around.
Right, with some like really basic functionality on a PC that
with the
they
idea
were
that
really
is meant
excited
to
about.
replace a laptop. He's not wrong.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're quite there yet. I think they've definitely made some progress towards making the iPad Pro more of it like a PC, but I don't know if it completely replaces it. Like, I'm not comfortable with, like, I think someone had suggested the whole touch cover with a touchpad, keyboard with a touchpad. Like, unless we have something with that kind of tactile, precise control, I'm not really comfortable switching away from an iPad.
But you're a more power user than, say, a large portion of the Apple audience. Where,
I mean,
like,
I
put
mostly
my
just,
mom on Apple after
Right.
the longest time because she just kept getting viruses because she's a mom.
Yeah.
So you put her on Apple, she's a little more safe, it's a little more simple, it's a little more user-friendly. And if you're just doing a lot of email and a lot of Facebook and a lot of
But
Candy Crushing...
But if you're doing that, you don't need an iPad Pro. You just need an iPad.
Truth.
It's cheaper.
True.
An iPad Pro, they're trying to go after professionals, trying to convince people that they're trying to go after
Just because it's in the name.
Yeah, I know. No, not professionals like workstation level professionals. They're trying to go after people who will do work on their iPad. And I feel like that argument, it's not quite there yet.
I think even for casual users, adding very basic functions like drag and drop, that file sharing system, which granted, like I was watching it, my eyes were glazing over being like, this is stuff that's been available in PCs for 20 years.
Right.
But at the same time, it goes back to Yahoo's point that this just makes it just a little bit easier
Yeah.
to ditch your laptop if
don't
you want to.
I just don't think it's quite there yet. Like it
I
needs
don't
a little
disagree
bit
with
more.
you, but if somebody really wants to switch over to a tablet, this does help them along that way.
The thing is, like, whenever anyone asks me about that, when I say if you really want to work on your tablet, like, use the Surface Pro. Like, don't use this.
I mean, yeah.
It's just more precise.
That's a good point.
I think there's a greater number of people out there like Yahoo. Maybe Yahoo is this person and other people who are more prone to just go for the easier, lighter solution. And if they're going to discontinue the Air, then what choice do you really have at that point?
What, the MacBook Air?
Yeah.
They did not discontinue
No,
it.
But like
they
it's,
saved it.
There's still
Well, they didn't really save it. They
how much time do you think it's really got left? If they're going this route with tablets, that seems like it's a conflict of interest to an extent.
I was hoping for more about the MacBook Air, and
it was hilarious that they
me.
actually talked about it. Like some of the editors here missed it. Like it was such a quick notice. They're like, "Oh yeah, the MacBook Air is also getting a bump in the specs, or getting a little bit more megahertz."
It was part of the fine print.
It didn't even merit like appearance in a presentation. Like the whole slide with all the here's our whole Mac lineup. Oh, by the way, the MacBook Air is getting an upgrade too. Like literally, that's what it was.
How's it been treating?
There was a
MacBook
debate
Air?
back and forth among some of the editors. Like, did the MacBook Air actually get an upgrade? Like some actually missed it because it was just sort of like squeezed in at the last second.
If you blinked, they could have just as easily said, "And we're discontinuing the MacBook
And the weird
Air."
thing is when you go on the site, we looked it up. That's why there was actually that debate. When you go on the Apple site and you go to the Mac section, every Mac says new except for the MacBook Air. It's the weirdest thing. Like they got the upgrade. They actually,
so sad about
they got
it.
It was actually if you buy a MacBook Air now, I think you'll get the faster processor.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say anywhere in that section that it's new. Like they do not want you to buy that thing.
Okay, so is the argument then like the Air is the most sufficient in what it's supposed to be?
No. The MacBook Air basically is Apple's way of saying we have a very affordable $1,000 laptop for you. That's what they have.
That's what I mean.
Affordable.
It's sufficient in its role, where people are like, oh, I wish the iPad did more of this. And it's like, the Pro computers aren't pro enough. We need more power. The Air is just like, it's an Air.
Yeah, I mean, I think Apple kind of has that out there so they can say they've got a affordable, quote-unquote, affordable laptop. They don't want you to buy that thing. They want you to buy a MacBook Pro.
What's the
they
next
do.
highest one?
Right.
The MacBook
MacBook.
Pro.
The MacBook itself.
No. It's $300 more, right? It's something like $200 or $300 more to get the lowest.
The
tier
lowest
MacBook
Pro. Wait, how much is the MacBook? Just the MacBook?
The MacBook.
I forget
I don't
what the
remember.
cheapest
It
one
might be
is.
$1,500, $1,400 or $1,500. But
Yeah, they did drop. They just dropped the price
take
for the
that to the
MacBook
bank.
Pro, the cheapest one, the non-touch bar one, to like $1,200, $1,300, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're already shelling out $1,000, $300 more.
That's what they want.
Is a lot of money.
But that's what they want. They look at they look at the
increase.
$1,000 one. They look at the one that's like the step up. They're like, well, this one's so much nicer, so I'll just get that one.
It's
fall into Apple's game.
All right, let's get to a couple more comments, and then we got to wrap it up for the day. Jesse Gademan in the chat says,
What's up, Jesse?
What's up,
Yeah.
Jesse? They gave us the drag and drop function that he mentioned yesterday. You got it, sir.
Yes.
That's right, Jesse.
You
There you
win
go.
the
Well
chat.
done.
And he also includes that the iPad dock was cool. We needed that.
iPad dock.
Was there an iPad dock?
Well,
Oh, that's
he
right.
needs the
Yes.
new-
Yeah.
And interface.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a physical dock. Like
Oh,
the
the
expanded dock.
files?
No, it's the expanded dock at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because it's more like Mac OS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're definitely becoming a little
And the
more
idea
seamless.
of like a predictive, like it'll show up, like it'll have apps that show up on the dock that it thinks you'll be used next is kind of cool. I don't know how smart it is.
They have that predictive functionality on the iPhone already, and it's not particularly useful for me.
Yeah, I've never used it.
Yeah.
All right, and lastly, Abi was very enthralled with the video and photo compression. He says that sounds
Oh
good.
yeah,
That was smart.
Totally, I think people completely miss that, but it's huge. Like my wife constantly runs out of space because she's taking constant photos and videos of our kid, and to have that extra compression definitely makes a huge difference.
Very, very smart.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nothing super earth-shattering to an extent, but it will make lives easier.
Very, very practical and very useful for sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's about the right place to wrap it up for the day. That was fun, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
for
for your
dealing with
questions.
our little technical faux pas in the beginning. It won't happen again, I promise.
It probably will, but it's cool. It's all good.
All right, take us home.
All right, if you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, FeedBurner.
Tune in.
Tune in. Am I missing anyone?
I don't know.
All right, good enough. See you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.